The morning sun cast a soft glow over the small town of Harrisonville, a place where everyone knew each other's names and news traveled faster than the wind. Today, however, something unusual had brought the townspeople together. The local courthouse was about to host an event that no one in memory could recall. Not a trial, not a heated legal argument, but a demonstration, one that would involve a real police dog. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters, curious residents, and a smattering of families, all whispering excitedly among themselves. Inside the courthouse, the air smelled faintly of polished wood and old paper, the kind of scent that made visitors feel the weight of history. Judge Carter, a woman known for her stern demeanor and quick wit, presided over the morning proceedings. She adjusted her glasses, glanced at the clock, and noted that the demonstration would start any minute. But her attention was pulled elsewhere, toward a small, tightly held hand clutching her mother's finger. Emily, a bright-eyed 3-year-old, peered over the shoulder of her mother with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Emily had never been inside a courtroom before. The towering bookshelves, the heavy oak bench where the judge sat, and the polished floor that reflected light in 100 different ways made her feel like she had stepped into a different world. But what caught her attention most wasn't the courtroom itself. It was the dog. Rex, a fully trained K-9 officer, stood near the center of the room. His coat was a deep, glossy black with patches of tan on his face and legs. Every muscle in his body exuded discipline and readiness. He wore a specialized harness with the words Police K-9 embroidered in bold letters. To any adult, he was a marvel of training and professionalism. To Emily, he was enormous. Her little hand tugged at her mother's sleeve instinctively. "Mommy," she whispered, "he looks so big." Her mother, Sarah, smiled nervously. "He's just a dog, sweetheart. A very smart and brave dog, that's all." But Emily was unconvinced. She had a fascination with dogs, big, small, fluffy, or sleek. She loved them all. Yet Rex was unlike any dog she had ever seen. There was a calm confidence in his stance, a silent awareness that seemed almost human. As she studied him, she noticed the way his ears twitched slightly, the way his dark eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail. There was intelligence there, yes, but also patience. And to Emily, that meant something important. The officers assigned to Rex gave the courtroom a final briefing. "Today, Rex will demonstrate some of his skills," Officer Martinez explained, his voice firm but warm. "We'll show how he tracks scents, follows commands, and assists in law enforcement. And we're also going to let a special guest meet him, someone very young who loves dogs." His eyes fell on Emily, and she suddenly felt all eyes on her. She fidgeted with her dress, unsure whether to wave or hide. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. The judge cleared her throat. "Very well," she said, her tone softer than usual. "Let's begin." Rex's handler signaled him to sit, and the dog obeyed without hesitation. Emily's eyes widened. He obeyed humans, he listened. She had only ever seen small puppies follow simple commands, and even then it often ended in chaos. Rex, however, was calm, disciplined, and majestic. He tilted his head slightly, as if acknowledging everyone in the room. Emily felt a strange pull in her chest, a mix of admiration, excitement, and curiosity. "Would you like to meet him?" her mother whispered. Emily nodded vigorously, her curls bouncing as she leaned forward. The officers guided them closer, reminding Sarah to keep a firm hand on her daughter. The crowd watched silently, some holding their phones ready to record, others simply observing. There was a hushed reverence in the room, a sense that something extraordinary was about to happen. Emily approached Rex slowly, her small feet barely making a sound on the polished floor. She stopped a few feet away, staring up at him. Rex sat obediently, his eyes meeting hers. There was no barking, no growling, just a steady gaze that seemed almost understanding. The courtroom was silent except for the soft shuffle of papers and the occasional whisper from an onlooker. Emily extended a tiny hand toward Rex. Her mother held her gently, guiding her but letting her take the lead. For a moment nothing happened. Then Rex leaned forward slightly, sniffing her hand carefully as if making sure she was friendly. Emily's lips curled into a shy smile. "Hi," she whispered. "I'm Emily." The dog responded by tilting his head, a slight wag of the tail and a gentle nudge of his nose. The courtroom collectively exhaled. Some of the officers smiled, clearly impressed by the connection forming in front of them. Emily's confidence grew, and she spoke a little louder, though still softly. "You're so brave, Rex. You help people." Whispers spread across the courtroom. A toddler, barely old enough to form complete sentences, was recognizing courage in a working police dog, a moment so simple yet profound it seemed to freeze time. Cameras clicked. Some reporters scribbled notes furiously, and even Judge Carter paused in her official duties, watching intently. It was, in every sense, an unlikely encounter. A toddler at that, and a police dog, brought together in a place of law and order, were connecting in a way that transcended words. Emily continued to reach toward Rex, her little fingers brushing against the top of his muzzle. The dog leaned gently into her touch, careful not to overwhelm her. In that instant, the courtroom wasn't a place of trials, procedures, or law. It was a space of wonder, innocence, and unspoken understanding. For Emily, this was more than a meeting with a dog. This was a hero she could see, a living example of courage, loyalty, and protection. And for everyone else in the room, it was a reminder that sometimes the smallest voices notice the most important things. Even in a structured, serious environment like a courtroom, magic could happen. As the demonstration continued, Emily's fascination never wavered. She sat attentively, watching Rex follow commands with precision, each movement a testament to his training and dedication. Yet her eyes always returned to the dog, her tiny heart recognizing something profound, a hero in fur, a friend, and perhaps, in a strange way, a protector she could understand. By the time the demonstration ended, Emily had already made a quiet, indelible connection with Rex. The courtroom would remember it, the officers would talk about it for months, and reporters would recount it in articles. But most importantly, Emily had spoken to a hero in a way that left everyone stunned, hinting at the extraordinary moments still to come. The courtroom had settled into a hushed silence, the kind that made every footstep sound like a drumbeat. Emily's tiny hand still gripped her mother, but her curiosity was stronger than her caution. She had seen Rex sitting like a statue, calm and imposing, yet somehow approachable. There was something about his steady gaze, his attentive posture, that called to her. She could feel it deep in her chest, a pull that made her forget her nerves, if only for a moment. "Mommy," Emily whispered, tugging at Sarah's sleeve, I want to go closer." Her mother looked at her, a mix of worry and pride crossing her face. "All right, but we have to be careful," she said gently. "Remember, he's a working police dog. He's very disciplined and he listens to his handlers." Emily nodded seriously, as though she understood every word. Then, taking a small, brave step forward, she let go of her mother's hand. Her shoes clicked softly against the polished floor as she approached Rex. The dog's dark eyes followed her every move, alert but patient. His handler, Officer Martinez, crouched slightly beside him, ready to intervene if necessary. But Rex remained perfectly still, as if sensing the delicate nature of the moment. Emily stopped about 3 feet away, staring up at the dog. To her, he was enormous, far bigger than any pet she had ever known. Yet there was a warmth in his gaze, a kind of silent reassurance that made her feel safe despite his size. She tilted her head, studying the gentle slope of his ears, the sleek lines of his body, and the faint glint of sunlight reflecting off his shiny coat. "Hi," Emily whispered, barely audible. "I'm Emily." Rex's ears twitched, and he lowered his head slightly toward her, sniffing the air between them. His tail wagged slowly, just enough to signal attention but not excitement. Emily's small fingers reached out tentatively, hovering above his nose. The courtroom was silent, but for Emily, it felt like the world had shrunk to just her and Rex. "Good boy," she murmured, brushing a curl from her face. She leaned forward carefully, placing her tiny hand gently on the top of his head. Rex leaned into the touch without moving, his warm fur soft beneath her fingers. Emily's eyes sparkled. She could feel the strength beneath his calm exterior, but also the gentleness that made him approachable to children like her. The judge, sitting high on her bench, watched with an expression of surprise and amusement. She had seen many courtroom moments, some tense, some dramatic, but never had she witnessed something like this. A toddler forming a connection with a trained police dog. Whispers ran through the courtroom, reporters clicking their cameras in quiet excitement, and officers exchanged knowing smiles. They had trained Rex for years to obey, to protect, and to serve, but even they were moved by the sincerity in Emily's small voice. Officer Martinez leaned slightly toward Emily, his voice soft but confident. Rex is very friendly with kids. He's trained to be gentle. You can pet him, but remember to stay calm. Emily nodded, as if the officer's words confirmed something she had already sensed. She began to speak, her words soft but deliberate, almost as if she were telling Rex a secret. "You're very brave, Rex," she said. "You help people. You're a hero." The courtroom collectively held its breath. A 3-year-old, barely able to form complete sentences, had captured the essence of courage in a single sentence. Rex responded subtly, a gentle nudge of his nose, a slight tilt of his head, a soft wag of the tail. It was almost as if he understood her, recognizing her admiration and returning it in his own way. Emily's confidence grew. She stepped a little closer, her tiny fingers brushing against his chest, feeling the strength beneath the fur. "I think you're very smart too," she added, her voice carrying a quiet conviction. "You know how to help people and be brave. I like that." Some of the courtroom attendees were moved to tears. There were adults who had never spoken words of such innocence about bravery and service, and here was a child doing it naturally, with pure sincerity. The judge smiled softly, a rare crack in her otherwise serious demeanor, while reporters leaned forward, eager to capture every word. Emily continued, speaking directly to Rex. "Do you like helping people?" she asked. "I think you do. You're very special." Rex responded with another gentle pawing motion, leaning slightly toward her. The bond between child and dog, though silent to others, was clear to anyone watching closely. In that moment, the courtroom was no longer just a place for law and procedure. It had transformed into a space of empathy, connection, and understanding. Emily's parents watched proudly. Sarah whispered to her husband, "I think she really understands him. She sees what we sometimes forget: bravery isn't just about fighting, it's about helping and caring." Her husband nodded, equally awestruck. "And she's showing it in the purest way," he replied. The officers overseeing Rex were impressed as well. They had trained him to respond to commands, to follow directions, and to serve in high-pressure situations. But this was different. Here was a child, recognizing his courage, speaking to him as if he were a true hero, not just a dog doing a job, but a living symbol of protection, loyalty, and service. Emily's words had begun to ripple through the room. Courtroom staff, reporters, and attendees all felt a sense of warmth and wonder. It wasn't just about a toddler or a police dog. It was about the extraordinary connection that could exist between humans and animals, between innocence and experience, between admiration and understanding. As Emily finished her sentences, she stepped back slightly, satisfied. Rex remained seated, watching her with attentive eyes. The officer gave a small nod, signaling that she had done wonderfully. Emily's tiny chest heaved with pride. She had spoken to a hero, and he had acknowledged her. The room felt lighter, more open, and even the normally rigid atmosphere of the courtroom seemed to soften. For Emily, this encounter was more than just meeting a dog. It was an introduction to courage, loyalty, and the subtle ways heroes exist around us, even when they don't wear uniforms. For everyone else in the room, it was a reminder of the magic that can happen in the simplest moments. A child reaching out, a dog responding, and a community witnessing the purity of connection. By the time the morning demonstration concluded, Emily had formed a bond that would not easily be forgotten. Rex had shown patience and gentleness, while Emily had expressed admiration and understanding beyond her years. The courtroom would carry this memory, a moment of innocence and bravery intertwined, long after the official business of the day resumed. Outside the courthouse, reporters whispered excitedly, eager to share the story with the world. A toddler spoke to a police dog and captured the hearts of everyone in the room, one wrote. Social media would later erupt with clips and comments, but for those present, the moment had been profoundly real, a living example of courage, kindness, and connection unfolding right before their eyes. And Emily, with her curls bouncing and eyes shining, had done what few adults could. She had truly seen a hero, and in return been seen by one. The courtroom had never been quieter. Even the shuffling of papers seemed loud against the hushed atmosphere. Emily, standing just a few feet from Rex, felt a strange mixture of excitement and reverence. She had never spoken to a dog like this before, not a small puppy, not even her neighbor's gentle Labrador. But Rex was different. He was trained, disciplined, and heroic, and somehow Emily knew he could understand more than just commands. She looked into his dark, intelligent eyes, her tiny chest rising with anticipation, and spoke in her soft, deliberate voice. "You're brave, Rex," she said, pausing to let the words sink in. "You help people, you're my hero." The courtroom collectively froze. The judge blinked, her pen hovering above her notes. Reporters instinctively lowered their cameras. Even the officers who had seen Rex in dozens of high-pressure situations stopped in quiet awe. A toddler, a mere 3 years old, had just captured the essence of heroism in a few simple sentences. Rex tilted his head slightly, a subtle acknowledgement that seemed almost human. His ears flicked attentively, and his tail gave a slow, deliberate wag. He didn't bark. He didn't lunge or jump. He simply leaned slightly toward her, a gentle gesture that made Emily's small hand feel important and understood. Some spectators in the courtroom gasped quietly. Others exchanged glances of disbelief. Many had witnessed children speak in public before, but it was rare to see someone so young articulate the qualities of courage and service in a way that resonated with adults. Emily, in her innocence, had done it effortlessly. Encouraged by Rex's calm response, Emily continued, her tiny fingers brushing gently along the top of his broad head. "I think you're very smart too," she added. "You know how to help people and be brave. I like that." Officer Martinez, kneeling nearby, smiled under his serious demeanor. "She's got away with him," he whispered to his colleague. "Most adults couldn't communicate this well with a working dog." Emily's parents, standing close behind her, watched with tears welling in their eyes. Sarah whispered softly to her husband. She sees him for who he really is, not just a police dog, but a hero, a friend. Her husband nodded, equally moved. And she's telling the world what adults sometimes forget: bravery isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet, steady, and meant to protect others. The judge, too, seemed affected. She had presided over countless courtroom proceedings, witnessed heated arguments, and endured the occasional emotional outburst. But she had never seen such a pure, unfiltered acknowledgement of heroism. Emily's words, though simple, carried a weight that went far beyond her years. A few journalists, unable to resist, began typing furiously into their laptops. Cameras clicked discreetly, capturing the moment without disrupting it. One reporter whispered to another, "This will go viral. People are going to be stunned by how a toddler can recognize courage in a dog." Meanwhile, Emily took another brave step closer. She leaned slightly forward, her small hand now resting on Rex's sturdy chest. "Do you like helping people?" she asked, her voice almost reverent. "I think you do. You're very special." Rex responded again, this time with a subtle nudge of his nose against her hand. It was a small gesture, but one that seemed to echo everything Emily had said. Courage, intelligence, loyalty, all silently acknowledged by the dog himself. For Emily, the exchange was magical. She had expected a dog to bark or run, maybe even sniff her curiously, but never had she imagined this quiet, meaningful connection. She felt as though she were speaking to someone who truly understood her, even without words. Courtroom staff whispered among themselves. "I can't believe it," said one clerk, shaking her head. "A toddler just reminded us all what real bravery looks like." Another added quietly, "And she's not even 5 years old." The officers overseeing Rex were equally moved. They had trained him for years, taught him obedience, search techniques, and protection strategies. But here, in the silent recognition of a child, they saw another side of him, one that was gentle, empathetic, and capable of forming bonds that transcended human understanding. Emily's confidence grew with every passing second. She felt empowered by the connection she had forged. "Thank you for helping people," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. "You make them safe. You're a hero." At that, some members of the audience quietly dabbed at their eyes. It wasn't often that heroism was recognized so purely, especially by someone so young. Emily's words had cut through the formality and tension of the courtroom, leaving a sense of warmth and awe in their wake. The judge leaned back in her chair, smiling faintly. "Remarkable," she whispered to herself. "A child has just taught us all a lesson in courage." Emily's mother crouched slightly, letting her daughter stand taller in her own space. She whispered, "You're doing great, sweetheart. Just keep being yourself." Emily nodded solemnly, as though taking her mother's words to heart, then looked back at Rex. "You're brave and kind," she added, "and I hope you know everyone loves you for helping them." Rex, as if acknowledging her sincerity, leaned even closer, his warm breath brushing against her tiny hand. It was a silent promise, an unspoken understanding that her admiration had been felt and returned. The courtroom continued to watch, captivated by the rare moment unfolding. Adults who had spent decades navigating the complexities of law and life found themselves reminded of something simple yet profound. Courage, loyalty, and empathy could be recognized even by the youngest among us. Emily's words were a mirror, reflecting the best qualities of the dog she spoke to, and in turn, inspiring everyone in the room. Reporter cameras clicked softly, capturing Emily's gentle smile and the calm strength of Rex. Social media would later explode with images and clips of this interaction, but at that moment, the experience was intimate and raw. Every observer felt privileged to witness the bond between a toddler and a police dog, a bond that spoke louder than any speech or official statement ever could. Emily stepped back slightly satisfied. She had spoken her truth, recognized courage, and shared her admiration. Rex remained seated, his posture unwavering, yet his attentive eyes never left her. For Emily, it was a victory in understanding and connection. For the courtroom, it was a reminder that heroism was sometimes quiet, subtle, and deeply moving. As the demonstration portion of the day drew to a close, Emily's parents hugged her gently, proud and amazed. Officer Martinez knelt down, patting Rex and smiling at the tiny human who had captured everyone's hearts. Even the judge gave a nod of approval, acknowledging the rare beauty of the interaction. That day, Emily had done more than meet a police dog. She had spoken to a hero, recognized the qualities that mattered most, and left an indelible impression on everyone present. The courtroom had borne witness to an extraordinary moment, one that would be remembered, shared, and cherished for years to come. And for Emily, Rex was no longer just a large, disciplined dog in a uniform harness. He was a friend, a hero, and a silent teacher in courage and kindness, all conveyed in the quiet, unspoken language of empathy. The courtroom remained wrapped in a rare, almost magical silence. Emily's soft words to Rex, the toddler's heartfelt praise and genuine recognition of the dog's bravery, had left everyone in stunned admiration. Adults who had entered the room expecting nothing more than a standard demonstration now found themselves completely captivated. Murmurs had long since faded, replaced by a heavy sense of awe. Even the most hardened officers, those who had seen the extremes of human behavior, couldn't help but feel their hearts stir. Judge Carter, seated high on the bench, lowered her glasses and allowed a faint smile to appear. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it did not escape the watchful eyes of courtroom staff. She had presided over countless trials, listened to stories of crime, betrayal, and triumph. And yet, here was a simple, unassuming toddler reminding everyone present of the purest kind of bravery, one not measured in legal victories or heroic rescues, but in gentle recognition of courage and loyalty. "Remarkable," she murmured softly, almost to herself, as she adjusted the microphone on her bench. Even in her years of experience, she had rarely witnessed such a profound moment of connection in her courtroom. Spectators glanced around at one another, exchanging quiet whispers. Some dabbed at their eyes discreetly, touched by Emily's innocence and her ability to articulate something adults often struggled to express. The court reporter paused mid-keystroke, briefly distracted, feeling the unexpected weight of a child's words. Emily's parents, standing near the back of the courtroom, were equally moved. Sarah's hand shook slightly as she held her daughter's tiny fingers. "She really sees him, doesn't she?" she whispered to her husband, a mix of awe and pride in her tone. Her husband nodded, eyes fixed on Emily and Rex. "Yes," he said softly. "She recognizes what so many of us overlook. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, consistent, and noble." The officers responsible for Rex exchanged knowing glances. They had trained him for years for obedience, tracking, detection, and protection, but never had they seen a reaction like this. They were used to high-pressure situations, arrests, and tense operations, yet the calm, respectful acknowledgement from a toddler had achieved what no drill, no command, no ceremony could. It had touched hearts. One officer, Sergeant Thompson, whispered to Martinez, "She's got a way of speaking to him. It's like she's speaking to the hero behind the uniform, not just the dog." Martinez nodded, his eyes misty. "It's incredible. I've handled this K9 for years, but seeing a child recognize him this way, it's humbling." Even the courtroom's usual background noises, the shuffling of papers, the hum of the ventilation system, the distant ticking of the clock, seemed to fade into insignificance. All attention was on the small girl and the massive, disciplined dog. Emily, oblivious to the adult emotions swirling around her, continued to observe Rex, her eyes wide and sparkling. "You're really brave, Rex," she whispered again. "I think you help lots of people. You're my hero." Her words, though simple, carried an innocence and clarity that adults struggled to find in their daily lives. Rex responded with the tiniest of gestures, a gentle wag of the tail, a slow, careful lean toward Emily, and it was enough. Enough to make every officer, journalist, and courtroom attendee realize that heroism could be recognized without fanfare, without medals, without ceremonies. It could be acknowledged in the quiet affirmation of a 3-year-old who truly understood what courage meant. Reporters' cameras clicked softly, capturing the interaction without disturbing the tender moment. Notes were scribbled, stories began forming in the minds of journalists, but even they hesitated to disturb the scene with intrusive commentary. Something sacred was unfolding in the room, a quiet lesson in empathy and bravery delivered by the most unlikely of teachers, a toddler. The murmurs among spectators began, but they were not whispers of confusion or disbelief. They were soft exclamations of wonder. "She's amazing," one woman whispered to her neighbor, her voice filled with reverence. "I can't believe she can express something so profound." The neighbor nodded, eyes glistening. "And look at him, he's responding. He really is acknowledging her." Emily's father leaned closer, wrapping his arm protectively around his wife. "Do you see that?" he asked. "She doesn't even know she's teaching everyone a lesson." Sarah smiled through her tears. "It's beautiful. That's all I can say, just beautiful." Even the judge seemed momentarily softened by the scene. Normally a figure of authority and stern decorum, she leaned back slightly, observing with an expression of genuine appreciation. "It's a reminder," she whispered under her breath, "that courage is sometimes recognized in the simplest ways." The courtroom staff were no less moved. Clerks paused in their work. Maintenance personnel who had been quietly observing from the back leaned forward, and even the janitor, standing at the side of the room, shook his head in wonder. Emily's words had created a ripple effect, spreading through every corner of the room. The air was charged with emotion, respect, and awe, a rare occurrence in a place typically defined by procedure and decorum. Officer Martinez gently patted Rex on the side, a subtle acknowledgement of the moment's significance. "Good boy," he whispered, his voice low but full of emotion. Rex responded with a soft glance at Emily, a silent understanding that their connection had been genuine and recognized by all. Emily, sensing the weight of the room's attention, continued her small monologue. "I hope you know how special you are," she said softly, looking into Rex's deep eyes. "You're brave, and everyone should know it." Her words were like ripples in water, spreading through every person in the courtroom. Adults reflected on the courage and dedication present not just in Rex, but in the countless officers who relied on him. They also reflected on the simplicity of Emily's perspective, that sometimes acknowledgement and appreciation could carry more weight than any formal commendation. The judge cleared her throat softly, breaking the silence. "I think we could all learn something from this moment," she said, her voice calm but filled with sincerity. "From the smallest among us, we see courage recognized in its purest form." Emily's parents hugged her gently, overwhelmed with pride and emotion. They knew this moment would stay with them and Emily for a lifetime, not just because she had interacted with a heroic dog, but because she had demonstrated an understanding of bravery and empathy beyond her years. The spectators, officers, and staff remained silent for a few more seconds, letting the moment linger. Cameras continued to record discreetly, journalists scribbled notes, and every adult in the room felt a renewed sense of perspective. Emily's innocence had created a powerful, unforgettable impact, one that no one had anticipated. As Emily finally took a step back, her tiny hand still resting briefly on Rex's head, the courtroom seemed to collectively exhale. The tension of the day, the seriousness of the demonstration, and the formality of the courtroom all dissolved into warmth and admiration. In those few minutes, a child and a dog had reminded everyone present of what truly matters: recognition of bravery, the power of empathy, and the beauty of connection. Even after Emily's brief interaction ended, the emotional resonance remained. Spectators whispered about the extraordinary bond they had just witnessed. Reporters began forming headlines in their minds. "Toddler honors police dog's heroism in courtroom." "3-year-old speaks to heroic K9, leaves everyone stunned." Officers exchanged glances, proud of their dog and amazed by the young girl who had touched everyone's hearts. Emily, oblivious to the impact she had created, smiled softly. To her, it was simple: Rex was brave, and she wanted to tell him. To the adults, it was profound, a reminder that even the smallest voices can carry the deepest truths, and that innocence often sees what experience can overlook. By the time the next segment of the demonstration began, the courtroom was still buzzing quietly with energy. Emily had set the tone. Her words, her honesty, and her genuine admiration for Rex had left a lasting impression on everyone present. The emotional reactions were not fleeting. They were the start of a story that would be shared, remembered, and cherished far beyond the walls of that courthouse. It was a moment of connection, recognition, and humanity, all sparked by a tiny toddler and a heroic police dog. And as Emily glanced one last time at Rex before returning to her parents, everyone in the courtroom realized they had witnessed something extraordinary, a reminder of the pure, unspoken power of courage, kindness, and understanding. While the courtroom buzzed with awe over Emily's interaction, the story of Rex, the police dog, had a depth that few in attendance fully understood. To most, he was an impressive K9 officer, disciplined, obedient, and brave. But his journey to heroism had not been easy. Years before he ever set paw in this courtroom, Rex had been astray, wandering the streets of Kansas City alone, wary of humans, surviving on scraps and instinct. His coat, now glossy and strong, had once been matted and thin, and his eyes, now bright with intelligence, had once reflected uncertainty and fear. It was Officer Martinez who first encountered Rex. He had been part of a community outreach program, visiting neighborhoods affected by crime, when he noticed a thin, cautious dog watching from the shadows. The dog's posture was wary yet alert, a survivor of many unseen struggles. Martinez crouched carefully, offering calm words and gentle gestures. "Easy, boy, I'm not here to hurt you," he said. Slowly, over days and weeks, the dog allowed Martinez to approach, respond, and eventually touch him. It was the beginning of a bond that would define both their lives. Rex's potential as a police dog was clear from the start. His intelligence, focus, and natural curiosity made him a prime candidate for K-9 training. After being rescued and placed in a specialized training program, he underwent rigorous exercises to prepare him for law enforcement work. The training wasn't easy. He learned to track scents, detect narcotics, respond to commands, and assist in apprehending suspects. There were moments of frustration, even setbacks, but Rex's determination and innate skill shone through. One of his first major assignments as a police dog came when a child went missing in a nearby park. The search had been ongoing for hours, with volunteers and officers combing the area to no avail. Martinez and Rex were called in, and Rex immediately picked up the child's scent. With precision and focus, he led the team through dense underbrush and along narrow paths. Within minutes, the missing child was found, safe and unharmed, a feat that earned Rex and Martinez the gratitude of an entire community. Rex had also assisted in countless other operations, locating fugitives, detecting illegal substances, and providing support in tense situations where officers' safety was at risk. His calm demeanor, coupled with his unwavering attention to command, made him reliable and respected. Yet, despite his many accomplishments, Rex had always maintained a gentle side, especially around children. Officers often joked that while he could handle high-stakes pursuits, he was equally adept at allowing toddlers to pet him without a single misstep. The courtroom audience, many of whom had been captivated by Emily's words, now began to understand why she had been so drawn to him. To a child, Rex was not just a dog. He was a protector, a hero, someone who had spent his life helping people, often without recognition. Emily's recognition of his bravery was a reflection of what the community already felt but rarely expressed, a deep, heartfelt admiration for the unseen sacrifices that K-9 officers like Rex made every day. Emily's words had sparked the reactions in the courtroom, but the full impact was amplified by knowing Rex's history. He had been more than a trained dog. He was a survivor, a partner, and a hero who had earned the respect of humans and animals alike. Every nudge, every attentive glance, every subtle gesture that Emily had observed was part of years of training, experience, and dedication. Officer Martinez shared some of Rex's stories quietly with those nearby. "He found a lost hiker last summer," he said softly, "in dense woods where adults couldn't even see the path. And during a burglary investigation last winter, he helped us locate the stolen property before it was moved. But he's also the kind of dog who sits patiently with kids during community events, letting them feel safe and cared for." The audience listened in fascination. Each story added layers of meaning to Emily's innocent admiration. It wasn't simply a cute moment between a child and a dog. It was a recognition of years of courage, intelligence, and service. Adults began to see her words not as childish play, but as profound acknowledgement of a life dedicated to helping others. Emily, unaware of the magnitude of Rex's accomplishments, continued to interact with him. "You're really smart, Rex," she said softly. "You know how to help people and make them safe. I like that." Her words were simple, yet they captured the essence of what the officers had seen in Rex for years. To Emily, heroism was straightforward: help others, be brave, and be kind. To adults, her statement reflected a truth often overlooked in the complexities of daily life. Rex's response was subtle but meaningful. A slow wag of his tail, a lean into her hand, and the calm attention in his eyes seemed to communicate gratitude. He had experienced danger, stress, and rigorous demands throughout his career, But Emily's words resonated with him on a different level, a recognition that transcended commands, accomplishments, or accolades. Even the judge seemed moved by the combination of Emily's innocence and Rex's history. "It's extraordinary," she whispered softly, half to herself. "A child recognizes heroism in its purest form, and the dog responds not because he's commanded, but because he understands." The courtroom staff, officers, and reporters began reflecting on the bond between humans and animals, especially those trained to protect and serve. Many noted how rarely such recognition was expressed openly. People often praised bravery in words, awards, or ceremonies, but here was a toddler, seeing it intuitively, and a dog, responding naturally. Emily's parents beamed with pride. She just knows," Sarah whispered to her husband. "She doesn't need anyone to explain it. She sees courage and acknowledges it with her heart." Her husband nodded slowly. "It's remarkable, really. That bond, it's like they understand each other without needing words." Rex had spent years earning trust, discipline, and admiration from adults. But in this moment, the acknowledgement came from the purest source imaginable, a child who saw not just a dog but a hero, and he responded appropriately, gentle, attentive, and fully present. The stories of Rex's past heroics now seemed to swirl in the minds of the courtroom attendees. Every finding of a missing child, every apprehension of a suspect, every dangerous operation he had participated in, it all added depth to the seemingly simple scene of Emily speaking to him. The audience realized that her words weren't just endearing, they were profoundly accurate. She had seen Rex for what he truly was. Emily, completely unaware of her impact, continued to engage with Rex. "You make people safe," she whispered, "and I think that's really special." She reached forward again, placing both hands gently on his head. Rex leaned in slightly, nuzzling her fingers in acknowledgement. The courtroom erupted quietly in admiration. Adults whispered to each other, journalists jotted down notes, and officers shared proud, subtle smiles. Emily had managed to capture something that even the most seasoned observers sometimes overlooked: the essence of heroism, distilled into recognition and gratitude, delivered in the most innocent of voices. By the end of the session, everyone in the courtroom understood the full story. Rex wasn't just a well-trained police dog. He was a survivor, a hero, and a loyal partner to those he served alongside. Emily's recognition wasn't merely charming. It was a deeply meaningful acknowledgement of a lifetime of courage and service. And in that small Missouri courtroom, the bond between a 3-year-old girl and a remarkable police dog became a living testament to bravery, kindness, and understanding. A story that would be retold, shared, and cherished for years to come. By the time Emily and Rex's quiet but powerful interaction concluded, the courthouse was buzzing with energy. The official demonstration had ended, but no one wanted to leave just yet. Spectators lingered, whispering about the scene they had just witnessed, while reporters scrambled to capture every detail. Phones were out, cameras clicked, and a sense of awe hung in the air. For everyone present, Emily's simple, heartfelt words had transcended the formality of the courtroom and touched something far deeper. Inside the press room, journalists worked quickly. Videos taken on smartphones and professional cameras were being uploaded, edited, and shared on social media. One reporter tweeted a short clip with the caption, "3-year-old thanks a police dog in court. You won't believe what she says." Within minutes, the post began to circulate beyond Harrisonville. Comments flooded in from strangers across the country. People were stunned by Emily's courage, clarity, and the sincerity of her words. "Look at this," one social media user wrote. "A toddler speaking to a dog, and it's more meaningful than any speech I've heard as an adult. Absolute hero moment." Another added, "Rex deserves a medal, but so does Emily for seeing the real heroism in front of her." The video gained traction quickly, shared by law enforcement pages, local news outlets, and national organizations dedicated to police and K-9 heroes. Emily's parents, initially unaware of how far the clip would travel, watched as notifications flooded their phones. Messages from friends, family, and strangers poured in. "Your daughter just reminded everyone what courage looks like," one message read. "She sees things adults often overlook." Sarah and her husband exchanged amazed glances, both proud and slightly overwhelmed. "I didn't think anyone would care," Sarah said softly. "But look at this, she's inspiring people." The local police department also shared the video, highlighting Rex's accomplishments alongside Emily's interaction. "Rex is more than a police dog," the post read. "He's a hero, and today, a young child recognized it in a way that left our entire courtroom in awe." The post quickly went viral, with thousands of likes, shares, and comments. Officers and community members alike celebrated the moment as a symbol of empathy, courage, and human-animal connection. News outlets picked up the story. Local television stations ran segments showing the interaction in the courtroom, replaying Emily's words. "You're brave, Rex. You help people. You're my hero." Anchors highlighted the significance of her recognition, emphasizing how a child's pure-hearted admiration could touch an entire community. Soon, national news websites featured headlines. "Toddler recognizes police dog's bravery, leaves everyone stunned," and 3-year-old speaks to heroic K9 video goes viral. The story resonated because it was more than just a viral clip. It was a reminder of values often overlooked: courage, empathy, and recognition. Adults reflected on how rare it was to see heroism acknowledged so simply and sincerely. Teachers shared the clip in classrooms to inspire children, emphasizing the importance of gratitude and understanding. Social media groups debated how Emily's pure-hearted words had managed to capture the essence of courage more profoundly than speeches, awards, or ceremonies ever could. Even law enforcement officers outside of Harrisonville began reaching out, praising Rex and acknowledging Emily. Emails and messages came in from other K9 units, expressing admiration for both the dog's professionalism and the child's insight. "It's amazing," one officer wrote. "You don't often see a toddler recognize the value of our work. She gets it." Emily, oblivious to the national attention, continued to talk about Rex at home with her parents. "Rex is really brave," she told Sarah over breakfast the next morning. "I hope he knows he's my favorite hero." Her parents smiled, marveling at her innocence and clarity. "He knows, Emily," Sarah said, "and so does everyone else now." The virality of the video sparked conversations nationwide about the bond between humans and animals, especially those trained to serve the public. People commented on how children, unburdened by cynicism or preconceived notions, could recognize heroism in its purest form. Psychologists and educators highlighted the lesson in empathy, praising Emily's ability to articulate gratitude and admiration. In a society often focused on complex explanations and adult perspectives, a 3-year-old's insight provided clarity and inspiration. Community members in Harrisonville also took pride in the story. Local schools held discussions about courage, kindness, and empathy, using the video as a teaching tool. Neighborhood organizations organized small events celebrating Rex and other K9 officers, emphasizing the role these animals play in maintaining safety and trust. Emily's innocent words had sparked a movement, a renewed awareness of the quiet heroes among them. The media continued to follow the story, interviewing Officer Martinez and other members of the police department. Martinez described Rex's career, from his days as a stray to his many life-saving missions. The video of Emily interacting with him had amplified public appreciation, bringing attention not only to Rex, but to the countless police dogs serving communities across the country. Meanwhile, Emily became something of a local celebrity. Children at her daycare asked her questions about Rex, wanting to know what it was like to meet a hero. Adults recognized her in the grocery store, often commenting on her bravery and sincerity. Emily's parents were careful to keep her grounded, explaining that Rex was special because he helped people, and that what she had done, recognizing his heroism, was important but didn't make her better than anyone else. Still, they allowed her to enjoy the moment, understanding that her actions had sparked something extraordinary. As the story continued to spread online, millions viewed the video, sharing and resharing clips of Emily speaking to Rex. Hashtags like Toddler Hero, Police Dog Hero, and Emily and Rex trended briefly, highlighting how a simple moment in a small Missouri courtroom could capture hearts nationwide. The combination of innocence, courage, and recognition created a narrative that was both uplifting and profoundly human. Rex, of course, remained his calm, attentive self. He did not seem to notice the fame surrounding him, only the child who had spoken to him so sincerely. Officer Martinez noted that Rex responded to attention with the same quiet confidence and focus he always had, a reminder that heroism often exists quietly, without fanfare, until someone recognizes it. Emily's interaction with Rex became a symbol for many. It demonstrated that recognition of bravery does not always need awards, ceremonies, or elaborate demonstrations. Sometimes, a few simple words from the heart could achieve what formal recognition could not. The moment went beyond just being viral, it became inspirational, showing people the power of honesty, kindness, and attention to others' efforts. Even months later, the story continued to resonate. Emily's video was shared in classrooms, offices, and social media groups as a lesson in empathy and courage. Police departments across the country used the clip during community outreach programs, highlighting the importance of K-9 officers and the bonds they form with the communities they serve. And in the midst of it all, a 3-year-old girl and a heroic dog from a small Missouri town had reminded the nation that sometimes innocence speaks the loudest, and recognition matters more than accolades. In the quiet corners of the courtroom where it all began, the memory lingered. Spectators remembered not just the video or the viral fame, but the raw emotional connection between Emily and Rex. Adults reflected on their own lives, considering how often they overlooked the heroes around them, while children learned the power of seeing the good and acknowledging it, just as Emily had. That single moment, a toddler speaking to a police dog, became a story of courage, kindness, and recognition, proving that even in the most structured and formal of places, true heroism could be seen and celebrated through the eyes of a child. And for Emily and Rex, nothing else mattered. They had shared a moment that would live in the hearts of everyone who witnessed it, proving that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. In the days and weeks following the viral video, the ripple effect of Emily and Rex's interaction could be felt throughout the community and far beyond. People continued to talk about the tiny girl who had recognized the heroism of a police dog, with nothing more than her honesty, empathy, and a few heartfelt words. Schools, community centers, and even local businesses began organizing small events to honor both Rex and Emily, celebrating courage, kindness, and recognition in the simplest forms. At Emily's daycare, teachers showed the video to her classmates, emphasizing the importance of noticing the good in others. Emily saw bravery and kindness in Rex, one teacher told the children. Sometimes, heroes are not the ones who make the loudest noise, but the ones who quietly help others. The children watched in awe as Emily's words were replayed, inspired to think about their own acts of courage and kindness, however small. Local law enforcement used the story as a teaching moment in community outreach programs. Officers brought in Rex and other K-9 partners to visit schools, explaining the roles these dogs played in keeping communities safe. But the highlight was always Emily's message: recognition matters. The officers explained to the children that while awards and medals are important, noticing and appreciating heroism in everyday life, whether in people, animals, or even friends, was equally significant. Parents in the community were deeply moved. Many reflected on how often they had overlooked small acts of bravery in their children, neighbors, or coworkers. Emily's innocence reminded them that noticing courage and kindness did not require formal ceremonies. Sometimes, it only required attention, empathy, and the willingness to speak from the heart. Emily's parents, Sarah and her husband, noticed a change in their own daughter as well. She had always been empathetic, but the viral attention and recognition of her interaction with Rex reinforced her sense of purpose. She became more aware of the people and animals around her, offering small acts of kindness and encouragement wherever she went. At 3 years old, her understanding of heroism had already begun to shape her character, instilling qualities that would grow stronger with time. The story of Emily and Rex also inspired adults across social media. Professionals shared the clip with colleagues, discussing how sometimes the smallest observations, from children, friends, or family, could reveal truths about courage and humanity that were easily overlooked. Many admitted to being humbled by the insight of a toddler, realizing that they had been too caught up in their routines to recognize everyday acts of bravery. Community organizations began incorporating Emily's story into programs for children. Libraries held story hours featuring the tale, emphasizing empathy, courage, and gratitude. Animal shelters used the video to highlight the importance of treating animals with respect and understanding, explaining how dogs like Rex were trained to be heroes, yet retained a gentle, loving side that often went unnoticed. Even outside the immediate community, the story sparked meaningful conversations. Mental health professionals highlighted the value of acknowledging positive actions in others. Articles appeared discussing how recognition and gratitude, even in the simplest forms, could boost morale, strengthen bonds, and inspire continued acts of courage. Emily's innocent observation of Rex became a case study in how children's perspectives can teach adults profound lessons. Emily herself, although too young to fully grasp the magnitude of her impact, continued to interact with Rex whenever she could. She would visit the police station, sometimes bringing a small treat or simply sitting quietly beside him, speaking softly. Each time, she reinforced the bond they had formed, and Rex responded with the same calm attentiveness, as if reminding her that courage and kindness were always recognized and valued. The local community also took pride in sharing Rex's achievements. People who had never paid much attention to law enforcement K-9 units suddenly found themselves inspired. They attended events, asked questions, and donated to programs that supported police dogs. The combination of Emily's innocence and Rex's heroism had transformed public perception, making the work of these animals more relatable and appreciated. Teachers in the area noticed a change in how children engaged with one another. They became more aware of recognizing positive qualities in their classmates, praising small acts of bravery, helpfulness, or kindness. Emily had unwittingly sparked a movement in her community, teaching children that noticing and valuing courage could inspire others to be better, even in small ways. Emily's parents continued to nurture her awareness and empathy. They encouraged her to speak kindly to friends, family, and neighbors, and they emphasized that heroism could exist in everyone. "Remember," Sarah told her, "just like you recognized Rex's bravery, you can see it in people too. And when you see it, say it. That's how you make the world better." Emily nodded, her small head bobbing with understanding, a seriousness beyond her years settling in her expression. Officer Martinez and his colleagues were equally inspired. They recognized that while Rex had always been a model K-9 officer, the public now saw him through a different lens, one that combined professional heroism with the gentle connection he shared with children. The officers began incorporating Emily's interaction into community training, showing how even the smallest gestures of acknowledgement could strengthen bonds between people, animals, and law enforcement. News outlets continued to feature the story, often revisiting Emily's words. "You're brave, Rex. You help people. You're my hero." Each replay brought renewed interest and reflection. Adults commented on how those few simple sentences carried wisdom and emotional depth far beyond the understanding of a typical toddler. Emily had given the nation a gentle reminder that true heroism could be recognized by anyone, regardless of age or experience. Across social media, people shared personal stories of animals or individuals whose courage often went unnoticed. The hashtag Emily and Rex trended repeatedly, with users recounting acts of everyday heroism, from neighbors helping one another to police officers quietly assisting the public, all inspired by the young girl's pure-hearted words. The story became symbolic of the human capacity to notice, appreciate, and celebrate the quiet heroes around us. Emily and Rex's story also inspired acts of kindness in real life. Some children wrote letters to local K-9 units, thanking the dogs for their service. Adults reached out to animal shelters to volunteer or donate, motivated by the connection between Emily's recognition and Rex's lifelong dedication. The viral moment had created a tangible impact, moving people to action in ways they might never have anticipated. Even months later, the story continued to resonate. The clip of Emily speaking to Rex was used in presentations on empathy, community engagement, and heroism. Universities cited it in psychology studies on recognition and emotional intelligence. And in Harrisonville, the courtroom where it all happened became a quiet landmark, a place where a child's words and a dog's calm attentiveness had reminded a community of the power of observation, kindness, and acknowledgement. In essence, the viral moment had become more than a fleeting internet sensation. It was a story of inspiration, teaching children and adults alike the importance of seeing courage, speaking gratitude, and honoring the heroes, human or animal, who made a difference. Emily's words were simple, yet they carried a truth that resonated universally. Heroism is often quiet, and acknowledgement is a powerful gift. Through Emily and Rex, people learned that courage need not be loud to be real, and recognition need not be formal to be meaningful. The story reminded everyone that even the smallest voices, spoken with sincerity, could have a profound impact on communities, inspiring reflection, admiration, and action. Months passed since the viral courtroom moment, but the story of Emily and Rex continued to echo through the hearts of those who witnessed it. The clip had become more than a fleeting sensation. It was now a symbol of empathy, courage, and recognition. For Emily, her relationship with Rex had grown stronger with each passing day. She visited him regularly at the local police station, her tiny hands always reaching to stroke his fur gently, her voice soft but full of admiration. And every time, Rex responded with the same calm attentiveness, the quiet dignity that had so captivated the courtroom months earlier. Emily's parents noticed the change in her as well. She had always been a perceptive child, but now she seemed more aware of the world around her. She watched people carefully, noticing small acts of kindness, courage, and compassion. At home, she encouraged her parents to appreciate the little things. "Mommy, Daddy, the mailman is brave. He walks in the rain to deliver letters." Sarah smiled through tears, marveling at her daughter's ability to translate her awareness into words. Her husband nodded, equally proud, realizing that Emily had absorbed a lesson far deeper than any child could have been taught in a classroom. The police department continued to use Emily and Rex's story in their community outreach programs. They organized events at local schools, libraries, and community centers, inviting children to meet Rex and learn about K-9 officers' duties. But the highlight of these events was always Emily's message: notice heroism, appreciate courage, and recognize kindness wherever it appears. Children were inspired not only by Rex's training and bravery, but also by the idea that even the youngest voices could have a meaningful impact. Rex, for his part, seemed to understand the significance of the bond he shared with Emily. While he remained professional and disciplined during his police duties, he exhibited a remarkable calm and patience around her. His trainers often remarked that this connection was unusual, even extraordinary. Most K-9 officers were friendly with children, but the intuitive understanding Rex had of Emily's sincerity was rare. He responded to her gestures and words with a quiet attentiveness that spoke volumes, silently acknowledging her admiration and understanding. In the wider community, Emily and Rex had sparked a cultural shift. Social media pages and community groups frequently revisited their story, using it to teach lessons about recognition and gratitude. Businesses and local organizations held events celebrating heroism in all its forms, from police officers and firefighters to neighbors helping one another. Emily had unintentionally become a symbol of the power of perspective, that seeing and acknowledging bravery and kindness could inspire others to act in ways they never imagined. Emily's parents, while immensely proud, were careful to maintain balance in her life. They emphasized that while the recognition was special, it was the act of noticing and valuing others that mattered most. "You don't have to go viral to make a difference, Emily," her mother explained one evening as they read bedtime stories. "You just have to see the good around you and tell people you notice it." Emily nodded, understanding more than her 3 years might suggest, her eyes shining with quiet determination. Officer Martinez noticed another change in the department as well. The viral moment had created a renewed appreciation for K-9 officers' work. Donations to the K-9 program increased, and volunteers came forward to support training and care initiatives. Community members attended demonstrations with a newfound respect, not just for the dog's skill, but for the courage and empathy that underpinned their service. Emily's recognition of Rex had reminded everyone that heroism wasn't always measured in arrests or medals. Sometimes, it was simply the quiet, consistent protection and care these animals provided. Emily herself had become somewhat of a local celebrity, though she remained blissfully unaware of the fame. Children recognized her in parks and at daycare, often asking, "Do you know Rex?" She would nod enthusiastically, eager to share her experiences of bravery and kindness. Adults approached her parents to express admiration, recounting how the viral video had inspired them to notice the quiet heroes in their own lives, coworkers, neighbors, and family members, whose acts of courage and kindness might otherwise go unacknowledged. Rex, meanwhile, continued his police duties with distinction. His heroic feats were not over. He still assisted in rescues, searches, and operations that required intelligence, courage, and discipline. Yet, whenever Emily was near, he seemed to understand that his role as a protector extended beyond duty. It included nurturing the connection he shared with the child who had seen him as more than a trained dog, but as a hero in the truest sense. The story of Emily and Rex even reached national recognition. Human interest programs on television and online features highlighted the extraordinary bond between the toddler and the police dog. Experts in child psychology and animal behavior praised the moment as a rare example of pure empathy and understanding, noting how children, unencumbered by skepticism, could perceive truths that adults often overlooked. Emily had inadvertently demonstrated a universal principle, that acknowledgement and gratitude, no matter how small or simple, can profoundly impact both the giver and receiver. Months turned into a year, and yet the story of Emily and Rex continued to resonate. The courthouse where it all began occasionally held visitors curious to witness the place where a tiny child had taught a room full of adults a lesson in courage and recognition. School groups, local journalists, and even neighboring communities came to hear the story firsthand, inspired by the enduring message that even the youngest voices matter when they speak truthfully from the heart. Emily grew in confidence, her small gestures of kindness reflecting the lessons she had learned. She brought flowers to the police station, wrote small notes of gratitude for neighbors, and continued to visit Rex, reinforcing the deep bond they had forged. Her parents encouraged her to embrace this empathy while maintaining the innocence and joy of childhood, understanding that the combination of innocence, awareness, and courage was a rare gift. The community, inspired by their story, began to see heroism in a broader light. Parents noticed their children being kinder and more observant. Officers appreciated the small acknowledgments they received from residents and schools. People shared stories of neighbors quietly helping one another, and local media highlighted everyday acts of bravery alongside Rex's ongoing work. Emily and Rex had created a ripple effect, a chain reaction of awareness, kindness, and recognition that spread far beyond the courtroom walls. In private moments, Emily would often whisper to Rex, "You're my hero and you make people safe." And in those moments, Rex would nuzzle her tiny hands, a silent, steadfast promise that he understood her words. To Emily, it was a magical bond. To Rex, it was a reflection of the trust and mutual respect that had been carefully built over months of interaction. Together, they embodied a profound truth. Heroism is not just about action, but about recognition, empathy, and connection. The story of Emily and Rex became a lasting testament to the power of innocence, courage, and kindness. It reminded the community and the nation that heroism does not require accolades, fame, or ceremony. Sometimes, all it takes is noticing, acknowledging, and speaking from the heart. And for a small child and a police dog from Missouri, a simple moment of recognition had forever changed the way people saw bravery, empathy, and the quiet heroes among them. Even as Emily grew older, the memory of her first meaningful conversation with Rex remained vivid. She continued to advocate for animals, bravery, and acts of kindness, always carrying with her the lesson she had learned in that courthouse, that true heroism can be recognized by anyone, and that acknowledging it is a gift both to the hero and to the world. The courtroom, the viral video, the news headlines, and the countless stories of inspired people all converged to create a narrative far bigger than anyone could have imagined. Emily and Rex had shown that a child's voice, unburdened by ego or expectation, could touch hearts, transform communities, and remind adults of the value of recognition and empathy. In the years to come, their story would continue to be told, a symbol of the quiet, enduring power of kindness, courage, and connection between humans and the animals who walk beside them. And so, the bond between Emily and Rex remained unbroken, a heartwarming reminder to the world that sometimes the smallest voice can have the loudest impact, and that courage in all its forms deserves to be seen, acknowledged, and cherished.